I felt like journalism deserved better. A lot of the technology out there was very dated. It was extremely expensive. And then I didn't really see a sustainable path within those current existing technologies. So it felt like we needed to do something, and we could do something that would really kind of change the course of journalism and really help the industry.
Welcome to Keep It Local, a podcast of the Local Media Association. The Local Media Association is intensely focused on helping local media companies discover new and sustainable business models. Hi, and welcome to Keep It Local. My name is Ryan Welton, Local Media Association, and today we're going to talk all about content management systems powered by AI, and I'm joined by a group of digital innovators. Literally, these folks were honored as part of our Digital Innovators of the Year program that we have each year with Local Media Association. And so today I'm proud to introduce you to the folks from Rust Communications and PubGen.AI. We have John Rust, Sho Rust, and Michael Mashia. And so before we get started talking about this amazing new content management system, how about a quick introduction? And we'll start with you, John.
Well, good morning, Ryan. I am president of Rust Communications and publisher of its flagship daily newspaper, the Southeast Missourian. We are a second-generation family media company based in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, with 15 newspapers primarily in the rural Midwest. I grew up in the business, lived and worked abroad, primarily in Russia. Started up newspapers in Tennessee and Arkansas. Went to Harvard Business School, and then proceeded to work there, writing cases on internet media companies. Came back to the company full-time in 2000. And we just love our communities, love local media. I've also served on the Associated Press Board of Directors as vice chair, and also was chair of its technology committee for a number of years. And so a real passion for technology and for news, and for finding a path forward for local media companies to thrive into the future.
Fantastic. Sho, how about you?
Yes, hi, I'm Sho Rust. I'm a co-founder and CEO at PubGen.AI. John is my uncle. I'm third generation member of the Rust family media business. And after working with AI for years at places like Boston Consulting Group, working for big brands like Google and Red Bull and different things like that, I realized I want to combine my passion for technology with my family legacy. We built PubGen.AI as our first AI-powered content management system. I'm really excited to share that all with y'all.
All right, Michael.
Yeah, thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm French American. Grew up in America and also in France. I have my master's in organizational psychology, but I have been working in the past 16 years in IT. I'm an engineer and co-founder of PubGen.AI.
Fantastic. Thank you for the introduction. And to reset for everybody, what we're going to be talking about today is this content management system that is very AI-centric, that was created by Rust Communications and PubGen.AI. As somebody who's been in the news business for years myself, I've used a wide breadth of content management systems. However, PubGen.AI is an artificial intelligence-powered content management system and digital platform. If you would, tell us about the CMS you've created. What prompted you to create it? I mean, there's a wide swath of CMSs out there. And what kind of functionality is there in newsrooms? Whoever would like to start.
I'll give a little bit of the origin story and then kick it over to you, Sho.
Perfect. That sounds great.
So at Rust Communications, we developed our own proprietary platform in the early 2000s. And we were blessed to have an engineer that was kind of planted in our area, offered jobs all over the world, all over the country, grew up in London, and it created really a great system. And we struggled to find backup engineers for him. We didn't struggle. We would have somebody on board for about 6 months, and they would be hired by IBM in Denver or in Austin with a gaming company or different places. So let's jump into the future. But we tragically lost our engineer during COVID. And at that point, it was a time we were in between assistants. And Sho, has been in tech, and Michael, and so reached out and said, "Can you do an audit of our system? Just look at the stability of it as we kind of figure out what direction we're going to go." I didn't really want to go a way of hiring engineers again, though that was certainly one path. So we looked at third-party full-service vendors, as well as assembling our own tech stack and how we would go. And it's in the course of this of Sho coming in, doing a audit of our system, then also invited him to start looking at what is out there, kind of join me on these calls as we're going to figuring out our direction. Um, Sho, do you want to give your kind of thought
Yeah.
on this and what you saw?
I I the gist of it is I felt like journalism deserved better. A lot of the technology out there was very dated. It was extremely expensive, and then I didn't really see a sustainable path within those current existing technologies. So it felt like we needed to do something, and we could do something that would really kind of change the course of journalism and really help the industry.
And I might mention, we then went into, as he was looking at systems, we were bouncing off. I was looking at different, again, assembling tech stacks. Um, Sho started having his team do lots of interviews with us about how we make decisions around uh, editorial editing. How do we look at that? How do we look at placement of stories on site and in paper? Just really the whole decision process. So after about a half a year of figuring out path forward and Sho saying, "Hey, we should go to we should build a system." Um, and then we went through another almost a year of these type of deep discussions. And then what came to us, and I got a little frustrated, to be honest, because I felt we were going really deep. I wanted a CMS, something that I kind of knew. Um, and what came forward is not anything we expected. It just had AI infused throughout. It was not something that I even knew to ask about at that time. Um, and it has just been something fun and incredibly powerful to work with. That again was nowhere that we anticipated as we went, that I anticipated when we get into the process, and feel so thankful of this direction that we're going.
And so, Sho, when it came time to put this together and you're doing all the interviews and finding out what the newsroom needs, was it just the fact that we were entering sort of an AI era that made you think, well, we ought to infuse some AI into this, or was it something deeper?
Well, I was just really taking a close look at the workflows and then the inefficiencies and how things could be done much better. And then both Michael and myself, we've been kind of working with AI and building content management systems since like 2018. And then so we were able to connect a lot of those dots and then see that, okay, how can we infuse this technology so journalists and newsrooms can really focus on what they do best? And then right now, newsrooms have to focus too much on figuring out how to get paywalls to work, subscriptions to work, and a lot of other things to work. Um, as well as like they're always very kind of late to the game when it comes to new technologies like AI. And then in the age of AI, it's something that I don't think newsrooms can really afford to be late on. And then so we're really excited to be able to connect those dots for the newsroom.
And Michael, your background in, if I think you said organizational psychology, did
Yes.
that, how did that come into play? Because change isn't something we're always comfortable with in newsrooms.
You're absolutely right, Ryan. The first thing, first it came into play in terms of just team dynamics and working all together. We One of the difficulties that started is to have a really good um, um, collaboration throughout the good and difficult times. And this is part of all startups. And most startups fail because the core team isn't able to pull through. And I think that's where one aspect in which I contributed to help build a solid team. And the throughout the years we've been able to work really well together. And so that's something that I think that is really good. And then the other thing is to complement what Sho and John said. When we looked at the processes over at Rust Media, it was not only understanding how what the tech needed to be, how the system worked, but it was also understanding what the business is. Ultimately, we're building PubGen.AI not only so that it caters for the immediate needs from a tech perspective, but also launches you into a business model that will work now and also for the future. And so having that long-term perspective in mind, I think was really probably the little extra that we brought in this equation.
I'll ask about PubGen.AI as a business unto itself in a moment, but I wanted to point out that PubGen.AI has functionality for both revenue management and audience analytics, which s- makes it a platform that most CMSs are really mostly just for editorial. But this one is for editorial and sales. Tell us about that. And to what extent did you involve your sales teams in getting input for what functionality and reporting they needed?
Well, this is a full system, even beyond, it's subscriber management, it's analytics, um, it's funnel, it's layout. It also has a uh, print uh, InDesign plugin that creates incredible efficiencies for just doing the layout of print papers or e-editions. Um, and Sho, do you want to talk about the conversation on the
Sure. Yeah,
things?
absolutely. It's got the reporting. It's got all the different things. We really wanted to, like, typically, a lot of these content management systems require you to kind of Frankenstein plugins together, or a lot of different vendors together, and it gets really complicated really quickly. It also creates a lot of instability as you have to maintain and take care of all these different separate platforms. We really took a look at it as, from more of a holistic point of view, where people can get up and running a lot faster, and there's a lot less things that can kind of break and go wrong. There's also a lot of interesting tools, like, of course, like the paywalls and different things like that, that you don't really have to think about much. They just work. And then so journalists can kind of continue to just focus on the writing and editorial process. And of course, we have a fantastic and easy to use editorial process as well that has things like the AI chatbot, research assistant, and also an incredible reader experience as well. So we really focus hard on how good the website performs. So without ads, ads always slow things down, but without ads, we score extremely high, up in the upper 90s or even 100% oftentimes on like things like Google page speed for things like best practices, SEO, and performance. And that's something very kind of new to the industry, surprisingly. So we're able to, the beautiful part about it is that when people migrate to our platform, not only are they able to really focus on the content because of the beautiful CMS, but they're also able to see a huge benefit from just a much more beautiful website that connects well with their app, and then also that integrates well with their print editorial process as well through InDesign.
And I'm going to bounce back to your question too a little bit, Ryan. I might have taken us off in a different direction. So we had the advertising team at the Southeast Missourian and marketing team involved in the process. We also show very early on while we were looking at what other Rust Communications was looking at future path. We were kudos to Local Media Association, part of Facebook Accelerator program, which really went into best practices with Blue Engine of walking through and some of their specialists. So we took that learning, have also used all the Google Consumer News Insights on both the advertising side to how to manage content, as well as other research. So that's where it kind of started with. And then it continues to expand also on how we're working with new clients. But in general, if you look at the platform, you see everything from sticky ads to the importance of how we're tracking uh, um, first party data that being collected in it. So this system is built to have everything that you go into what you need to do for marketing and advertising.
It's a system for the entire enterprise. Did you run into any obstacles, whether it be on the sales side or the newsroom? Were there any doubting Thomases who are like, change? I'm not really sure. And at what point did the epiphany happen? Did their eyes light up and they say, this is actually amazing?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, oftentimes before, if they haven't seen the software yet and they just hear about it, there's a lot of like, buzzwords like AI and different things like that. And then oftentimes, in this industry, change, a lot of newsrooms have kind of an immunity to change, as they say. But once they see a demo of the platform itself, they see it in practice. They see how we were able to take AI and then being able to implement it in a much more responsible way into the newsroom's workflow. They're almost always sold. Um, and then, so typically, even the biggest doubters will be asking us for a contract the next day after they actually see the software in use.
You mentioned the contract. This system is available for any newsroom. As I note here, it was built with the enterprise in mind. Businesses with multiple publications can manage everything in one spot, and at 250 a month per publication, quite affordably. So, Michael, speak maybe to the organizational psychology and the differences of news. Are you involved in talking to each one of the prospects?
I am involved in talking to almost everybody at different stages. They usually talk to Sho first and then with me afterwards when we go through data migration and setting up the platforms. Um, I know that in the industry, that's is from what I've heard, migrations are often something that can be feared with maybe bad memories of it in the past. But we make it much easier and much smoother, and we're really here to help and make this process as smooth as possible. And so far, so good.
Ryan, I might say, kind of share when Michael goes through a migration, one of the first things does is look at example of the content. And then they work on figuring out tags, the amount of cleanup that they do, and making sure that when it transfers over is really rationalized in a way that's going to work better for the content. Um, and then when somebody comes on, we are seeing incredible backlink just lift,
Hmm.
and other lift just because of how it's been migrated over, the way the the it's not called data maps. What are they called, Michael?
Yes, mappings.
Yeah,
The
mapping the data of things like
Yeah,
e-link
yeah.
sections and tags,
Talk about
e-sequires how
what you
bad it
do
could be.
because
Yeah.
it's just at a whole different level than what we see elsewhere in the industry.
Yeah. Well, there's several processes. There's one of cleanups. Oftentimes, over time, you have lots of categorization, and it's just become just too numerous to for it to make any sense. So there's a cleanup. There's also deduplication. It would be pretty. It's hard to believe sometimes how many variations of the same either author name or tags already exist. And there's a element of strategy because perhaps the categorization under which the articles used to be 5, 10 years ago is no longer relevant. And so there's a part of strategy of deciding where do they want to be now, where do they want to go into the future, and then making sure that all the content is perfectly geared towards that.
If you're willing, how many newsrooms are using this right now? And you noted, John, the backlink lift, which I understand that it's getting links, it's inbound marketing, getting links from other authoritative websites. What other positive results are you seeing so far from the newsrooms that are using PubGen.AI?
Yeah, absolutely. So, right now, we have contracted we just went over the 100 mark, actually 67 of which we're onboarding at this moment. So Michael is unbelievably busy. And then, but we also have scaled our team. And then we've been hiring a lot of onboarding people to kind of help and assist these new newsrooms. And then oftentimes these publications that we are launching are just a few of the many within these larger media organizations. So as these go successful, we actually are looking to have over like 200 on our platform very soon. So very exciting times. And then the second part you were asking about, kind of like the typical uptick that people see when, yeah, so a big uptick. For example, Lewiston Tribune, they went up 228% on digital revenue in the first 90 days. They saw like ad engagement go up 70% in the same 90 days. So it's a huge opportunity for newsrooms to improve their system Oftentimes, yes, it is, little cool things like AI, but oftentimes it's just like a lot of little small things like doing sitemaps properly, doing the mapping that we were just discussing, and then just having a better reader experience that really respects the newsroom's content and the reader's time.
Forgive the impromptu question, but I also thought not only sitemaps and data mapping, but also schema. To make your content show up in AI search, I know that things like FAQ and how-to schema, they have to be in place. I presume that what you're doing with PubGen.AI will help newsrooms show up in AI search snippets a lot better.
Yes, yes. It's actually surprising to see, newsroom websites that have improperly set up sitemaps or robots files and different things like that. We're constantly looking at new schema updates from the different search engines to make sure that newsrooms are always on top of it. And this is at no uplift of their own. As long as they're on our platform, a new requirement comes up from the web. We take care of it and make sure that all of our publications benefit from it all.
Sho, you want to talk about speed performance and Google testing?
Oh, yeah, I think I talked about it a little bit, but without ads, we're close to 100%. And then so you'll notice that, sometimes the ads load in a little later depending on what ad platform our publishers are using. But the content itself, the important stuff, loads instantaneously. That's extremely important, especially on mobile devices and mobile phones and different things like that. You can be on your way to work in a bus or different things like that. And then readers have very little patience, so every performance metrics really does convert into additional revenue for the newsroom, and so we emphasize and spend a lot of time on that.
Yeah. And Ryan, in talking about performance, there's so many aspects to this platform. Um, and because they build it in AI, they test it in AI, they move so quick. And when they add features, everybody gets the benefit of it. It's not something because it's more like a Tesla, where they constantly are updating the operating system rather than a lot of other systems, which are kind of old vehicles that have had things bolted onto it. If you want to add an AI component, you bolt it onto it. But these are individual sites that have to be updated individually, whereas this just moves fast. But so there's so much to it. But pulling it back into the newsroom, uh, in our operation, we're seeing about a 10 times multiple of efficiency improvements of the number of press releases and government documents that our news clerks can handle. We're seeing about a 1.3 to 3x improvement of what our reporters can handle or are doing in our editors on just the basic news stories. We're seeing in terms of management of website, um, we're seeing 12 to 20 times of just how we've set up auto channels for wire services so that content moves in automatically under rulemaking, to how related stories are put together, to layout on the system. It's just so much more efficient. And we're seeing all of that. Not to mention, we just finished at Rust Communications, we just finished a research experiment where we were using a news analysis tool, kind of like a copy editing and news analysis tool to give feedback to the reporter before it got to the editor. And so we had them do this news analysis and we had them do a bias check. And it gives them the type of feedback that we're thinner now with our copy editors. We're just thinner throughout our company. We know the industry as well. So this gives feedback to the writers on, in part, gap analysis. Might find, an example, find misquote, a quote one way, body copy different. It gives the feedback to the reporter earlier in the process. Uh, we were surprised. It really appeals to our younger reporters because they get it one-to-one from their screen. They feel more comfortable with the AI feedback than their editor coming in and kind of say, what the hell, about this? Why don't you ask this question? So that's another component in there. We found out in this research project over a 20-week period is that 79% of the time the reporters found that the feedback was effective. 50% of the time, they made changes in the immediate story. Other parts, they used it for follow-up. I'm getting this is a whole discussion in itself, what we found. Editors find out that the feedback was effective 89% of the time. We also know why there is the 10% makes sense. Again, I could go deep into it, but there are so many tools um, that we're finding efficiencies in the news operation. Um, and our people are having fun with it. That's the thing. You can't really, it's just such a better system that morale is up around it. Um, we've got senior reporters. We also do something in writing where they can actually score a story. So we use AI, we use some strategy out of Sweden on how you look at content of stories, relevancy, topicality, entertainment, passion. Also, there are a number of different issues. Um, and they get a score, and they love experimenting with this. And then they're also using this tool for follow-up questions, follow-up stories, preparation for interviews. There's so much built into it, and it's built with AI that is tuned to the ethics of journalism. It's not where people are using other systems out there, and I don't know if you wanna talk about that, show of what you've done around that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we think it's so important that the future of AI is really kind of grounded in the communities and the local newsrooms and different things like that. And then just like when you hire someone to work within your newsroom, it's really important that the AI understands where it's working. This is a publication. This is a newsroom. These are our style guide rules. This is our history. This is what we're all about. This is our community. This is who we care for. And then on top of that layer, we also have an area for grounding it into the archives too. So the AI has access to the archive. So it can go back and then reporters in the back end can ask things like, hey, have we written about this person before? And it's actually like, oh, cool. Yeah, actually the star athlete, their mother from 15 years ago that we wrote a story on, this story right here, was also a star athlete. You might want to mention that in the article. So the grounding of the AI, of course, as John said, in journalism, but also in your content, in your community, is critical. And that also surfaces for the reader as well, where the reader can come to the website and then ask about, hey, how's the local university? What kind of programs do they do? And it'll bring up actual articles. It's not linking to Wikipedia and different things like that. It's linking to your content. So as people get used to utilizing these AI chatbots, oftentimes they're unhappy with it because it's not grounded in that community. But we're able to meet that gap, and then that also means that hopefully a lot of those subscribers that are now currently subscribing to those AI tools will come and subscribe to the newsroom instead. Because how smart is an AI if it's not grounded in your community? If it doesn't know about the business that opened across the street and is just linking to who knows what it is, where you can actually click into it and actually see the article, see the author, see the citations behind the ideas that it's sharing is really important.
In that way, the discovery process is very much like the marketing funnel. You hear a snippet of the song, I want to hear the whole song. I like that song, I want to hear the whole album. And ultimately, people would rather come to the source. John,
Yeah.
this has turned into a business unto itself. Did you anticipate that?
No.
And what are your plans? I mean, you're already busy as a publisher. What are your plans for PubGen.AI as a business, and kind of what is your vision for the future for this as an entity unto itself?
This is a question for the CEO of the company, that's Sho Rust.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. We're really trying to really grow and help as many newsrooms like my family as much as possible. And then just like my family, we really care about newsrooms. And then we really our mission really is to kind of we've seen kind of a devastation of the industry over the last couple of years, and that doesn't need to happen. And in fact, we actually think in the age of AI, journalists are actually more important than ever before. And then that there will actually be a lot of interesting new revenue models, like the pay per crawl models that the CEO Cloudflare is discussing, that we can help these newsrooms kind of adopt and then help them grow. So we plan to, of course, our focus right now is helping local newsrooms, but we also are working with universities, educators, and even content influencers that talk about very specific topics that are more kind of their community is like maybe design or different things like that. But our that's just kind of been a nice thing that's been happening on the side. But our core focus is really helping these local newsrooms thrive in the United States at first, but of course globally as well. Yeah. And then one of the cool things I will mention, since we are talking global, is that AI knows 98 different languages. So from a newsroom perspective, it's very helpful. But from a reader's perspective, let's say you're hearing Gabe Gerardo, and then your native tongue is Spanish or Japanese or Korean or different thing. Maybe you're a student, you can still interact with the newsroom and ask it questions and follow up questions, and then be able to get the news in a more meaningful way.
I have to tell you, I've in my time I've used at least a dozen different CMSs. This is genuinely one of the most exciting developments in the CMS world that I've heard of, and I'm only familiar with a couple of AI centric content management systems like this. So everything that you're talking about speaks to me editorially, and I'm sure it speaks to the sales audience as well. But if there's a newsroom out there who stumbles upon this video or this podcast and they say, I would love to learn more about PubGen.AI and get in touch with you, Sho, how do they do that?
Yeah, of course. Well, and they're very welcome to just email me directly at show@pubgen.ai. They can also go into our website and schedule a call with us, and we'd be happy to show them a demo of the platform at any time. And then we warn you though, once you see the demo, it's hard to not adopt the platform very quickly. But we make that incredibly easy and pain free. Yeah.
Anything else? John, yes, you.
Yeah. It's interesting. In When we talk to traditional newspaper companies, oftentimes their focus is on the CMS. They're really they love the CMS. Uh, then it's important to them to have something that assists with the print layout. And so that's so when they see it, how this works, that really gets their attention. A lot of the time, they're fearful of the AI component of it. We've even had some people ask, "Can you turn that off?" Um, but as they get exposed to it, they're going to see that this is a really incredibly powerful tool to doing good, uh, better, higher quality journalism more efficiently. It really helps the news process. And so people really need to start looking at AI, whether it's with PubGen or something else. But PubGen is really tuned to journalism. I just can't talk enough about it. But everyone really needs to be looking at the impact of AI and how they can use it if they're not.
Yeah,
I
and a lot of the risks that they're concerned about is oftentimes because they're utilizing the tools that are not necessarily tuned for journalism and are not grounded in their content. And then once they get exposure to one that actually is grounded in their content, it is tuned for journalism, reduces hallucinations, follows their rules, they very quickly warm up to it.
I think you put it best. One of you did. AI tuned to the frequency of journalism.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. We'll end it there. I appreciate you, John, Sho, Michael, for talking with us today about this amazing product, PubGen.AI. Folks, if you hear this and you want to reach out to Sho, please do so. And if you enjoyed this podcast, I would encourage you to share it with your newsroom or a newsy journalist in your life who might want to hear this. Again, my name is Ryan Welton on behalf of Local Media Association. This podcast is called Keep It Local. We hope you'll like, follow, subscribe, do all the things, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you all. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, it was a pleasure being here.
This has been Keep It Local, a podcast of the Local Media Association. If you got value out of today's podcast, why not give it a review wherever you heard it and share it with a fellow journalist or an entire newsroom. Until next time, for Keep It Local, this is Ryan with the Local Media Association.